So thank you so much for accepting being here and connecting our worlds, and for me to come to know you in the Goddess Conference in Portugal last year. It was a blessing, and I as soon as I saw your videos, your presentation to the conference, I looked at your videos and I said, wow, this is going to be a good guy to know. I felt it somehow that we could connect, and we did connect, and it was really beautiful. Your presentation at the conference made 90% of the people cry with that poem you read, The Fence. And it was so beautiful to see how women connected with that sacred masculine, the purpose of the masculine that you so well read and felt it through that poem. And also the men that were present, I saw men crying after that. So for me, it told me that you are opening hearts with your message and your work. And I thank the goddess and the gods for us to come together and be able to work together. So it's a privilege to have you in my life and to be part of your life also. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you. There's not much I can say to that, but yeah, apart from that, I just need to dry my tears a little bit, like, yeah. Thank you.
So Miguel, as I introduced you, we are here to talk a bit about the masculine wounds. What do you see in your work with you and your other people that come to you, men and women? And how do you feel the importance of looking at these wounds in a more serious and loving way also?
For me, it's the most important work is the, you know, the addressing, healing, transforming these wounds of the masculine and feminine, and, you know, within men and within women, because it just seems to me, for a long time I worked with young people, disadvantaged youth, with teenagers with drug issues and all sorts of problems, and for me that was working at the level of effect. This is the result of the society that we live in. But as the years went by, I began thinking, well, how can I have a deeper impact on this? So, and what is the cause? Where is the root of these wounded, you know, young men and women that are in so much pain? And you know, and so of course we trace it back, and the home, their parenting, they are the results of the environments of the homes that they have been raised in. And you know, they're raised by wounded men and women who have their own wounds that have been passed down from generation to generation. And it wasn't really a conscious choice, but I just began through my own work to heal myself and heal my own mother wounds and father wounds. I just found myself in this place where it was like, unless we do this work, unless we, you know, this is the foundations, unless we do this work, nothing really changes, because it just gets passed on. Whereas if we heal the wounds, and we as adults are in balance, and we have a union of our masculine and feminine within our hearts, then just imagine the children that would be born from those people, from
and
that love.
Your father also, right?
My father?
You are father.
I'm a father, yeah. I'm a father. I'm a proud father of 2 sons.
Boys, 2 boys.
Yeah, I have 2 boys. Oki is 25 and Sol is 19 now. Yeah, and it's the way it goes. But in a way, I wish that I was, you know, a little more conscious and a little bit more healed, you know, while they were growing up. But it is what it is, and we learn as we go. And my boys, you know, I left the marriage about 10 years ago, but I made a very conscious decision that it would have as minimal impact as possible on my sons. I would still be their father, you know. That didn't change, and so we have a good relationship. And I see, you know, we're in touch and so on. And I know that they watch. I don't teach them, but they watch and see how I am and the things that I do, and you know, they're absorbing it all.
Yes, because we transfer, we emanate the energy, and we don't have to force nobody to see the things that we are seeing, to feel the things that we are feeling. So I believe that the great masters, or the mastery, comes from the emanation, the energy, the coherence of what we do.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. We learn through absorption, don't we? And yeah, so my boys have their own journey, and you know, one of the biggest tools for facilitating learning and growth, in my experience, is acceptance. So I do my best to love them unconditionally and accept them just as they are, knowing that they, you know, that they will change and grow and make their own way through life, with a little guidance here and there, you know.
And that's the tool that you use also with the men, boys, women that come to you, to your intimate space of therapy and help.
Yeah, the acceptance is a really big part. That, you know, all of you is welcome. Whoever I work with, all of them is welcome. There is no judgment. There is no, you know, I don't even like right and wrong or good or bad anymore. It's just like it just is.
Yes.
And in that space, you know, I guess a little bit like the wooden fence, the poem that you alluded to. You know, in that safe, protective space where you are accepted and loved unconditionally and held, then that is when we relax, and when we can blossom and grow, and then, you know, because everything that we need to know will come through us when we are ready. I don't need to, you know, tell somebody what it is that they need to do. I just create the right conditions for them to see for themselves. And sometimes I might, you know, shine a little bit of light into a dark corner or something to illuminate something. But it is very much about that acceptance, and yeah, just welcoming people, welcoming them, because that banishes shame and guilt and all these negative, so-called negative feelings that we've been told to avoid and to hide and to push down and to escape from and to cover up with addiction.
And these are also cultural beliefs of fear, guilt, sin, that condition so much the vulnerability of men and women, the guilt of feeling fragile, the blame, the sin, being shamed. I'm shamed of my frailty and my ability to surrender.
Yeah.
How do you see that in the men and women that come to you? That patterns that feed these wounds in the masculine and the feminine.
Yeah, I mean, I see that there is not a great deal of difference between working with women and working with men in a way. Both men and women have a resistance to being vulnerable, to being, you know, to be showing their weakness and so on, and their shame and their guilt, and this thing of we're supposed to be positive all the time. And but I guess women tend to be more open for the most part, and more able to access their emotions. And so, you know, when we can access our emotions, then we can feel what it is that we need to feel, and, you know, and we have to feel it to heal it. So much healing in that. While, you know, the majority of men are so locked in their heads and have cut off from their bodies and their hearts and their feelings, that it can take a lot longer, you know, that it's just stuff going round and round their head, and
layers and layers and layers.
Yeah. You know, saying that says the greatest journey that we will ever make is from our heads back to our hearts. And that applies to men and women, but it is a harder journey. You know, we're generalizing here, but it's a harder journey for men because of all the stigma around big boys don't cry, and what it is, you know, you have to be macho and cool, and, you know, you don't show emotions. So, you know, and the result of this is that we have a massive mental health epidemic amongst our men.
Yes.
We have massive amounts of men killing themselves. We have massive amounts of men abusing their women, and, you know, not being in control of their anger and their, you know, their pain, which they project onto their partners or externally into the world. And, you know, it's all, you know, the majority of that all comes down to big boys don't cry. This belief that we're not supposed to show our emotions and we're not supposed to feel. But until we embrace all of ourselves, the dark and the light, there is no union, there is no healing, and there is no peace. There's no peace within. There's just a constant activity and energy in suppressing or hiding or denying those aspects of ourselves.
Yeah.
I mean,
and also, just let me tell you something that I'm also connecting with is the warrior, the lover, and the king inside a man, the archetypical energy of man. The warrior is so occupied fighting and in revenge of something, or fighting for the country, always looking to protect someone outside, or reacting to in a response to that anger. And the lover most of the time is looking for the mother womb to go again inside, but goes from women to women, or even man to man, and looking for that embrace. And the king inside of a man, the magician also, the shaman, doesn't know how to, doesn't know that he has the power, first of all, and most of all doesn't know how to deal with the power, the true power that comes from within.
You know, in my own journey, the magician only really begins to emerge when there is union and peace and balance, you know, in the other archetypes. That's when the magician really begins to come online. And yeah, you know, the warrior, so much of that is a sort of distorted warrior energy. It's not a pure, clean, you know.
The image that I have, it's Rambo with the machine gun and all that.
Rather than, I guess for me, a warrior, a lot of the warrior is speaking your truth, is saying, you know, what you believe, and honoring yourself and honoring others, and not being afraid to speak that, even if others will, you know, ridicule you, or you know, it's like you speak your truth. And the lover, you know, I mean, it seems to me that the lover is the primary archetype that, you know, that life asked me to work with in this lifetime, from the, you know, because of my own story that I lost my mother. Well, that's interesting. I'm going to rephrase that. I didn't lose her. That's not an accurate word. I didn't lose her. I mean, the way I see it is that her contract was to leave, so that I, myself and my brothers and sisters would have the option to go in search of the truth of love, not love from a woman.
Most of your life, you felt that you lost her, right?
Yeah.
What took you to the quest?
Absolutely, yeah. It took me to the quest. It took me to, because there was such an absence, because my mother was there for such a short time, just for 7 months as a baby. And I only recently realized this, that actually for those 7 months, she wasn't in good health. So she was depressed, and she had anxiety, and so even when she was there physically, she wasn't there emotionally or psychologically for me. She couldn't meet me. She wasn't really there. So what that meant was that, yeah, you know, I've spent a lot of years of my life in search of filling that hole, really, you know, that which was missing, that love foundation that I never received. And, you know, as the world teaches us wrongly, that, you know, that we fill that hole through another. A woman will complete me. You know, a woman will become my surrogate mother. She will give me what I didn't have when I was a child. And you know, I was blessed with the reality that none of my relationships worked, because, well, they worked, but they didn't continue, and there was a lot of purging and pain and disharmony, because life was saying to me, this isn't it, Miguel, you know, this isn't it. You're looking in the wrong places. And it took me quite a long time before I started looking in here, you know. It was inside me. It was for me to heal the feminine within myself, to embrace the feminine within me, to learn to be the mother to myself that I never had, and not to expect that from a woman.
And that's the quest that you share with us in your book, Bring Him Home. It was such a beautiful book to read, so intimate, and for me it was initiatic also. It initiated me in my own wounds, and to feel your sensitivity through the voyage that you make with another person. And it struck me so hard that when the masculine came, the true masculine, the sacred and divine masculine came, the feminine wasn't ready. And most of the times women are looking for the knight in shining armor.
Yeah.
But when he comes, when he enters our life, in our space, sacred space, our sacred womb, we don't know how to deal with it. So it was wow for me in that way.
Thank you. Yeah, that's such beautiful feedback, and I've never heard it. I've never heard it expressed quite like that you just expressed it there, Isabel. But so that's really powerful for me. After this interview, that will do its work inside me, because that is that's how it was, and that she wasn't ready. And yeah, you know, I often see on Facebook and places, you know, women saying, you know, where are all the conscious men? When are they going to show up? And you know, there's thousands, there's millions of us conscious women, and there are no conscious men. And but what I see is that it's that thing again, isn't it? It's because women are looking outside for a man to complete them. You know, this is the piece that I wrote on what is the sacred masculine. You know, where do I find him? And And it's like, well, this is who he is. But if you want to find him, then look inside yourself. He is within you. When you do the work, when you heal your father wounds, when you have, come to peace with your masculine, then your man, your sacred man, will show up in the world.
Yes.
But that takes. There was another piece that I just wrote the other day. The Warriors of the Heart, about putting our swords down, and that it takes great courage because a woman wants a man to protect her and to be there for her and to hold space and to be in his full, authentic, clean masculinity. But in order for a man to be able to do that, she has to make space. She has to stop being the man herself, and she has to trust.
We are so accustomed to be all over the place, do everything, and we in generally we have the tendency to do everything, to be unreplaceable.
Yeah.
Because we need so much love and attention and validation, and we are all over the place doing everything. And when we need men to come in and protect and to hold the space, we don't know how to let them do it.
Yeah.
We don't know that. Not yet.
Not yet, but we are planting the seeds. The seeds are and the seeds are growing. Yeah. It's an amazing journey. It takes such courage to be able to do that when women haven't been honored, and I'm going to say two things. One will contradict the other, but they haven't been honored for generations, and yet at the same time, who's to say whether you were a man in your last incarnation and you were somebody that wasn't honoring woman, or whether I was a woman and I wasn't honored by man.
Yes, and we must not forget that, because I'm a woman now, but I have lives where I was a man, and also as a woman I didn't protect my energy. I did things that violated my feminine energy, so also I have that responsibility towards myself, towards my feminine, and also towards my masculine.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we are. It's taking responsibility for ourselves, isn't it? And with this, I guess because of patriarchy, there has been the masculine, or a thin band of the authentic masculine energy has been put on a pedestal, and it's all about doing and action, and it's all about success and pushing forwards and making stuff happen, and because man, as you said earlier, that half of the population of the world are women and the other half are their children.
Yes.
Because so many men are still boys in men's bodies, the woman has had to become the man, the masculine, to take on that energy as well, because that masculine energy is, from a primitive perspective, is going out and putting food on the table. It's going out hunting, bringing back some meat. It's about, making sure that that there is a roof over the head, and that there are clothes to wear, and and all those basic human needs. And so the energy for being the more creative, perhaps, energy, and the softer energy, and the more being energy, and the stillness, and the receptive, and that has had to take a second, take a back seat, because because the primary stuff has to be sorted out. And so the feminine energy has become denigrated and has become smaller and smaller, because there's so much energy put into the masculine of just keeping everything together. And this crazy world that we live in, where it seems that you have to run faster and faster and faster to just to stay
always
still.
being and doing better and better all the time.
Yeah, yeah,
Prove yourself worthy of something.
yeah. Yeah, so it's an interesting place that we find ourselves in. But it is shifting, you know, it is changing. And
Feel that change? How do you perceive it and connect with that change?
I see it's hard. It's hard in a way to get a clear picture because, you know, I only know what's happening in the circles that I mix in.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not really a clear representation, you know, of what's happening in the whole world or, you know, the whole population. But it doesn't, it only takes, you know, it only takes a few, it only takes a small proportion of people to change and for people to, you know, to transform. And that is, you know, I guess it, you know, it is a, it becomes a beautiful coronavirus, you know, that is very contagious, and that it passes everybody that we meet, and everybody that, you know, my intention is that everybody that reads what I write, everybody that, you know, that shares space with me, some of that energy is absorbed, the same as it will be with you and the people that you mix with. But I also believe that we can't comprehend the changes that are coming with our minds. That it's, you know, because if it was just an incremental thing of, okay, well, we can do so much healing with this generation, and then perhaps the next generation will be a little bit more healed, and then the next generation a little. The planet, we don't have that much time.
Yes,
we don't have that much
time. Doesn't have that much time.
No, no. So, you know, my intuition tells me that there will be a big shift that we can't comprehend with our minds. You know, there is a shift in the evolution of humanity. We're on the precipice of a massive shift in consciousness, and I don't think we can envisage what that will be. You know, it may be as different as where we are now to what was happening in Atlantis, or
yes.
You know, I think it's beyond our comprehension. So I don't think we need to, you know, the journey is the destination. We don't need to worry too much about you know, what the end result is and plot the whole course. All we need to do is do our work and be present and trust and deepen our faith and know that is enough, because it is enough. And we have to remember that the truth is we are immortal spiritual light beings. It only becomes scary and fearful when we just look at it from the perspective of being a human animal. You know, that birth and death are the beginning and the end. There's such a bigger picture than that. So it's okay, you know, we can relax and we can breathe, and we can know that it is all divinely orchestrated, that it is all unfolding just as it's meant to. And in the same way that in my own story that I was, that I lost connection with love, or that I believed that I'd lost connection with love through the loss of my mother, I had to go through that journey and through the darkness and through the, you know, through that whole initiation in order to find, you know, through contrast, and to find my way back to the light, which of course, paradoxically, I was already there, but at the same time, I needed to go through this process in order to realize that love is always here. Love never leaves. But the same as I had to go on that journey, it seems that humanity is on that same journey.
Well, it's initiatic. We are all in this labyrinth of the shadow, our inner shadow, all the shadows that we created in our lives, in our heads, the stories that we tell ourselves about who we are, and we need to start to shed some light on that, to put another perspective. And one of the things that I most appreciate in you is your coherence, the way you write. I'm a writer, I'm a journalist also, so I connect with the truth that comes from the writing. And that coherence that I feel in your words, I know that you, before you write them, you feel the information, you feel the pain, you feel the shadow, and also you feel the bliss of life and love and light. And how do you go to your shadows and come out? What could you tell from your experience? And to everybody that is listening, how do you do it? How can you express what you live in those moments so that others can be inspired? Because I feel that people are a bit lost in their shadows.
Yeah. I guess a part of it is, is embracing the shadow and realizing that our shadows, that's where the treasure lies. In the places that we most fear to go, that is where love resides, and that is where transformation and alchemy takes place. Yeah. There is the story, of the two wolves, the dark wolf and the light wolf. The little boy that speaks to his grandfather about these wolves and says, grandfather, it feels as if there are two wolves inside me fighting, the light and the dark. And sometimes they're locked in combat, and sometimes it really scares me. And yeah, I don't know what to do about it. And, I don't know which one will win. And what do I need to do about it, grandfather? And the traditional response, the traditional part of that story then goes on to say that the grandfather says, well, the one that will win the fight is the one that you feed the most. So so sort of suggesting that we focus on the positive, on the light wolf, to make him stronger. But I say, that's not the true story. The true story is that we honor both. And if the dark wolf is the vicious, angry one, then he's only vicious and angry because he's trying to get our attention. Our pain is only trying to get our attention. That is where the physical, that's what our negative emotions are. They're trying to bring our attention to something that is not in alignment with truth, that is not love. So the best thing to do is to honor the nice white wolf and the dark wolf. And as we feed the dark wolf, then it will cease to be so vicious and angry, because it doesn't need to get our attention. So, the story is inviting us to give our energy to the darkness, not to avoid it, to spend time with it, to stay there, because it just needs our love. That's all it needs. It's just aspects of us that haven't been transformed, that have been denied, that just need loving. It's the simple thing of, love heals everything. Love is the answer to everything. And if we deny the darkness, and if we deny the shadows within us, if we don't feed that, then what happens to an angry, starving dog? It just gets more vicious, and it just gets more angry, and it turns up the volume. That really is kind of what's happened in the world, because the shadow has been denied. Those aspects of us that are asking to be transformed and to be loved and to be embraced and to be held, then they just become more angry and more violent, and we have more rapes, more child abuse, more war, more dishonoring, more disrespect, more torture, more slavery. These are all the results of the denial of the shadow, and all we need to do is honor them and have the courage it's really simple. Have the courage to feel now that which we were not able to feel at the time.
Mm-hmm.
We feel now that which we were not able to feel at the time, because the majority of this pain that is in us will be from traumas and you know, experiences that we had when we were young, as we were growing up, because our parents didn't know any better, and we have been brought up in a dysfunctional society. So we feel it now. We feel it now, and without, we feel it with just being in our bodies and just staying with the sensation of whatever feeling it is, if it's a vibe. Because the reality is that most uncomfortable feelings, negative emotions, just create a, you know, it's perhaps a dull ache in the heart, or a sort of sinking feeling in the belly, or a vibrating in the solar plexus. It's just a sensation that's happening in your body. And that sensation is the releasing. If you're not feeding it and adding more of that emotion to yourself, it's a releasing of the old.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So as we feel it, we are releasing it, and we are clearing it. But the key is not to keep feeding it with you know, with shameful thoughts, and I shouldn't be feeling this, and it's weak of me to do this, and it's wrong, and it's okay to fall apart. It's okay to cry. It's okay to be in despair. The more we can have the courage to go to those places, the quicker it transforms.
And it's okay to ask for help and a hug.
Absolutely, yeah.
We need
Yeah.
more hugs.
More hugs. There's never enough
Please,
hugs.
more hugs, please.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Isabel, because I think, you know, what happens is that, yeah, you know, that we feel shame about feeling so broken. So we feel that it has to be a secret, and we hide away and feel it alone. I think this is part of the 2020, is that there is this more coming out, and this community and this sharing. We're not meant to really do this work alone. In fact, you can't do it alone, because part of it is, because as you know, as we heal ourselves and we're vulnerable ourselves, we give others permission to do it. It becomes contagious.
Yes, we need the tribe again.
Yeah, we can't do this in isolation. It's not supposed to be. Yeah, there are times when you know, you retreat to your cave and you lick your wounds, and you need to be with yourself, but not all the time. Not all the time, and that's probably something that, yeah, you know, not regrets, but you know, maybe I could have done a little bit more of that, you know, sharing it. But I guess my way really has been sharing it through my writing and through my books, and you know, my vulnerability in that way.
And you do it so well.
Thank you.
Tell me, in your perception, experience, what is the divine marriage inside of each and every one of us? And tell us more about the pilgrimage that you are going to do in April, because these are connected.
Yes, they certainly are. Yes. The divine marriage, you know, it's like, I don't tend, although I write a lot, I don't read. I haven't read a book for years, and I choose to access my information directly from source, if you like. You know, my information, my realizations, my insights come usually when I'm walking on the land. You know, it comes in the space through allowing, through the emptying. That's where my knowing and arises from. And so I don't know, you know, very technical language around the you know, the divine marriage, but what is in my own experience, which is, it's a, I guess in some ways, you know, we can call it a healing of the mother wounds and the father wounds. You know, that I guess on one level that's what it's about, because our mothers were our, you know, initial template from which we, you know, we learned this is what it is to be a woman. This is what the feminine is about. And, you know, and so the same with our father, this is what it means to be a man, and this is the masculine energy. So we absorb a lot of that. And so, our parents often did a very good job. Mine certainly did, of showing us what, what did the divine masculine is not, and what the divine feminine is not. So, that's helpful because it narrows it down a little bit. It's not that. So, okay, what is it? So I stumbled across this. It wasn't something that I set out to do, but because there was so much pain and trauma from the wounds that I experienced as a child, losing my mom and then being raised by an abusive stepmother, and my father not protecting us and being absent, that it was just, I need to heal myself. I can't keep living with this pain and these addictions and this. It was just such hard work. And so I began looking inside, and began bit by bit, but bit by bit, finding peace and healing. But it seems to me that, it was destined. It wasn't really a choice. I mean, interestingly, when I was about 20, I had a tattoo of a sun on my left on my left shoulder. Yeah, I'm not very good at right and left. Yeah, that's my left shoulder. And my understanding was that those were the times when I was beginning to explore the masculine. What does it mean to be a man? And and I had to, because I was quite a shy and very low self-esteem and very scared, young man and boy, very low self-esteem. So I had to quickly learn how to survive in the world and focus on my masculine energy and and how to take care of myself. But then about 10 years later, I began to be introduced in more the feminine energy, and all of a sudden I felt out of balance with this tattoo. So I had a crescent moon, a symbol of the feminine, on the other shoulder. And and then it wasn't until years later that I began to see, all right, there was this balancing and this inner knowing that was happening all the time. And there were times when I was addressing the father wounds directly, learning how to survive in the world, and then later came the addressing the feminine and being okay with just being authentic, just allowing myself to be what felt most in alignment with truth within me. And then and they've alternated. There are also these different layers. There are different layers of healing, but ultimately it is just about honoring the feminine principles and the masculine principles. That there is and discerning when each one is called for, when it's a time for doing and pushing forward and speaking my truth and doing the masculine stuff, and when is a time to hold back and rest and be gentle and receive and listen. So it's an ongoing journey, and it's about the the sort of yin yang and the blending and the swirling of these energies. I guess that's what the inner marriage is for me. It can be summed up maybe by a soft, gentle strength, so that it has the gentleness, but it has the strength as well. And it's like, one knows just which. There isn't a conscious decision of okay, now I need to be more masculine, or now I need to be more feminine. There's just an intuitive, it just arises. And there is a peace that comes with that. That's what I find, that there is an increasing peace, because it doesn't matter too much whether you're in a male body or a female body. The dance is the same, yes, of the masculine and the feminine. We get so hung up on the genders and whether we're a man or whether we're a woman, and actually it's the same journey for a woman. Well, not the same journey, the same but different. It's the same but different. So that's what this union, and my understanding is that in this union then something extra is born, that there is the whole is more than the sum of the parts. So that as this union deepens within me, which I feel it deepening within me, there is you know, sometimes it's referred to as the divine child is born. And I guess for me, my first divine child was this.
Yes.
You know, if it hadn't been for that journey, then and you know, those experiences and that purging and clearing and healing of the wounds within myself, that, you know, the book would never have been born. You know, it was birthed from that work. So this divine union is, you know, it's deepening, it's ongoing, and I don't know what it has in store for me, but I suspect that what it has in store is stuff that I can't comprehend with my mind anyway at the moment.
Yeah.
Which takes me to the pilgrimage, the second part of your question. I've known for a long time that I would walk the Camino.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess in a way I was often too tangled up in relationships, and I was too invested in the external feminine, and it's only recently that I've arrived in this place where there is such a deeper, more complete and sense of peace just being with myself. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, the idea found me and said, okay, Miguel, now's time to do the Camino. And when I began exploring it and looking into it, first of all, I was looking at the Camino Francés along the north coast of the top of Spain, and it was just too busy and too touristy, and it was like, no, that doesn't feel right for me. So I began looking at the other Caminos, and it was just like, it just all fell into place, because the Camino Via de la Plata, which I will walk, which starts in Seville, mm-hmm. and ends in, you know, in Galicia, in Santiago de Compostela. And, you know, where it begins is the province of my birth mother. She was born in Andalusia. That was where she lived. And where it ends is Galicia, where my father now lives.
Wow.
So there is this, it just kind of feels very divine again, as if it was meant to be. There is this, it feels like, for me, it's a consummation of the marriage within me. It's a deepening of that connection, and a closing of that, the story of the wounds of my mother and my father, the wounds that they gifted me.
Mm-hmm. And also the love that made you.
And also absolutely, yeah.
Because it's an act of love, your mother receiving the seed of your father.
Yeah, yeah. It's very true. There's that's so true. So that's what the pilgrimage is about. It's just a calling. It's like I can't not do it. Mm-hmm. There's a sense of fear and excitement, which I know when both of those arise, that's usually a good indication that it's something I need to do. Mm-hmm. And yeah, you know, I don't really know what's going to happen on the way. I don't tend to look forward very much. It's just, all I need to do is arrive in Seville, and I begin in March. Actually it's a month today. It's the 21st of March. Oh. So it's a month from today that I will set out. And because I've chosen that because it's spring equinox. Mm-hmm. And I will walk through Easter, you know, all the Easter stuff that will go on in Spain, the Christ and Magdalene. And actually my birthday this year is on Good Friday. Wow. So, and then I will arrive in Santiago around Beltane, the beginning of May, which is, of course, is the time of the divine union of the masculine and feminine. Mm-hmm. So it just feels very aligned, and it just feels that, you know, that I will, there are three levels, you know. There's a call to adventure. It's like I'm fed up of being sat in front of a computer in a room on my own. And I've decided, well, so I might as well raise some money for a charity at the same time. So I'm raising money for Unseen, that are a charity that work to prevent modern slavery. The second layer is about the consummation of my own inner marriage and just bringing closure to that. And the third layer is clearing the way for the collective, because I know that, you know, as I do this work and as I deepen this work, it clears the path and it makes it easier for others to follow that path and to do that work. And that, yeah,
Wow.
I can really feel that as a
And thank you so
speak
much
that.
for that service that you are going to live in your body and in your emotions, because I know that we are going to gain a lot from that experience, and maybe another book comes out from that experience. Another divine child comes to this earth through you from that experience. So it's my prayer also for you to bring something to us through that personal experience, to inspire.
Yeah. It can't be any other way, Isabel. It is done in service, and yeah, that's what will be. Yeah, it will happen. I don't quite know what it will look like yet, but we don't.
What they say about the camino is that the camino is doing the camino. So you have to do it to be on it. So
yeah.
And I understand the fear and the excitement all both together. I'm going to do my 4th year of Vision Quest, and it's 13 days and 13 nights in silence, alone, and fasting. So we'll be together in that time also, because on the Easter I will be in the middle of my voyage also.
Beautiful.
We will be connected.
Yeah.
Mission, personal and collective mission.
Yeah, I think there are many of us that that we will meet in that space. And I've heard of another woman. I don't know her. I just know of her. Anaya Sophia. She's also she's walking the Camino.
Oh, wow.
At the same time, she is walking the Camino Frances. So she will be walking from east to west, and I will be walking from south to north. And we will.
I will be in Costa Rica.
Is that where you're doing yours, in Costa Rica? Yeah. Okay. Wow.
So
yeah, all over the planet.
Here.
Yeah.
Really, really beautiful, precious.
Yeah, we all do our little bit, and we can't measure it as little or big. We just do what we are guided to do. We are asked to do, and that's enough.
Yes.
Yeah.
Miguel, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here with you, and I think we are going to meet again to talk about other things. We have so many sub-themes here to explore and to dive in. And looking forward for you to come to Portugal, and maybe we do something together, combine everything that we are doing for mankind, for men and women and children, because we are preparing the grown-ups to be fathers and mothers. And well, thank you for this hour and the magic that you bring in your words and your heart. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Isabel. Yeah, it's been a beautiful conversation. It's really touched my heart as well, and I look forward to coming to Portugal and collaborating. We do something together, and that would be really good. That would be really good. Thank you for the invitation, and thank you to everybody that may be watching or listening to this. Let's just all remember that it's all unfolding perfectly, and there's nothing to fear. It's okay. Love is always here.
Thank you.